Almost every single issue that we have as a society today can be traced back to one root problem. And in this video, I want to explain that root problem to you. Let's get started. It took me a really long time to articulate this, and I feel like I finally get what the problem is, and I can finally wrap my head around the issue as a whole. I wrote this post on X explaining my thoughts. So you can see here, too many people want to own their assets while being able to consume. So what this means is that people want to own houses, they want to own rental properties, they want to own stocks, they want to own whatever they can, while at the same time being able to consume and not having to give away their assets. So let's say, for example, we have people who own thousands of houses. They never have to sell those houses because they can just borrow against those houses. And banks can create unlimited money out of thin air using those houses as collateral. So what people do is they already own a house. They save, let's say they save for one house. They save for the down payment on one house. They own that house. And over time, even if they do nothing, the value of that house is going to go up because, again, people can have money created out of thin air and they can use that money to buy houses because they know that houses can increase in value over time. So what happens is banks give people loans against houses because they expect that house prices will go up. People buy houses because they think that house prices will go up, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. As more dollars enter the system, there are more dollars chasing the same number of houses because houses are harder to create than dollars. So when house prices keep going up, the rich, the people who own houses, can keep borrowing more and more money against those houses because the money that we have today is fake. This is what the legacy financial system is built on. Everything that we do in the legacy financial system, in the current, not legacy, but the current financial system, is built on people being able to borrow money against the assets that they own. So we have banks. Banks are able to give you home equity lines of credit. They're able to give you a mortgage. They're able to give you a second mortgage, a third mortgage. You can keep borrowing against your house as the value rises. And as banks lend out more money enters the system, and the price of a house is pushed up on its own because more money is in the system. People want houses, and they're willing to pay more and more in order to have that shelter. So in the current financial system, what people want is the ability to delay gratification and to get instant gratification at the same time. So they want to own the house while also being able to enjoy their life today. So they want to have delayed gratification, owning the house. They want to get the benefit of delayed gratification. So if they wait and they own the house, the price of the house is going to go up on its own. But at the same time, the bank is able to create money out of thin air and give it to them so that they can buy the Ferrari, they can buy the Lamborghini, they can go on those fancy vacations. So what this does is it makes the rich even richer. It makes it so that the rich can enjoy their lives because they own all these assets, and banks can create money out of thin air and lend it to them against these assets because banks think that the price of those assets will continue to rise. But what this means is that the people who don't own assets get poorer and poorer and poorer, and they lose value over time because they've been brainwashed to believe that pieces of paper have value. So the entire system is catering to making the rich richer, to allowing the rich to consume more, to be able to buy a yacht, a second yacht, a third yacht, a vacation home, a second vacation home, a third vacation home, a rental property, 10 rental properties, 100 rental properties. And this only happens, this only works because in the current financial system, I say it's the legacy financial system, money can be created out of thin air. We can print our money out of nothing. We can create value without actually putting in any resources, any time, effort, or energy. And that breaks everything. That completely corrupts the entire system. It completely destroys what we do, what we're willing to do to create value. So everybody just wants to work in the finance industry. I worked in the finance industry, creating money out of thin air because I got paid a lot for doing so. So we know that banks can lend unlimited money against houses, but on a Bitcoin standard, this doesn't work anymore because in the current financial system, we have US dollars. A lot of people just think that Bitcoin is just another asset, but Bitcoin isn't just another asset. Bitcoin directly competes with US dollars as a global store of value. On a Bitcoin standard, you can't create money out of thin air anymore. You can't just produce more dollars because somebody tells you that they have a house and they want to take a loan against it. The people who own Bitcoin will have to give away their Bitcoin because Bitcoin is money. On a Bitcoin standard, we no longer will need to buy houses to store value for the future because Bitcoin will be that store of value. So on a Bitcoin standard, because we're not using houses as a store of value, we can just use money as a store of value. We can use Bitcoin as a store of value. You no longer get to borrow US dollars against your Bitcoin because nobody will want US dollars. Why would people want something that can be created out of thin air for the value that they produce? I think people are going to look back in this time, they're going to look back in history and see that we were foolish enough to be brainwashed to believe that pieces of paper are worth our time, energy, and effort, that we're willing to give away our finite resource to get back literally nothing, something that can be printed out of thin air. US dollars, Canadian dollars, euros, pounds, all these currencies are literally worthless. The only reason why they have value is because we trust that they'll have value in the future. That trust can fade. I think what's happening is that trust is moving to the Bitcoin standard. I think over time, more and more people will want Bitcoin over every fiat currency that exists. I think over time, because Bitcoin is money, if you own Bitcoin and the world goes to a Bitcoin standard, you're going to have to give away your Bitcoin to consume. You're going to have to give away your asset, your money, in order to consume. In the current system, that's not possible. People who own stocks can hold on to those stocks forever. They can keep getting paid a dividend. They can keep getting paid rental income from the house that they own. They never have to give them away because the banking system can create more money out of thin air. On a Bitcoin standard, that doesn't happen. Because we're currently on a fake money standard, because we use fake money in our day-to-day lives, we can borrow that money. Banks can create more money out of thin air. They can create more of this fake money in unlimited amounts. Today, because we use US dollars and most people just think of Bitcoin as another asset, or people think that Bitcoin is a gamble, most people don't quite understand it. Today, we can hoard our Bitcoin and we can pay merchants in US dollars. We can borrow against our Bitcoin. This is going to be a completely ridiculous concept in 10, 20, 30, 50 years when the US dollar finally fails. People are going to think, how were we stupid enough to lend people against their Bitcoin? Banks will be thinking this because instead of lending you against your Bitcoin, why wouldn't they just buy the Bitcoin? They don't quite understand what Bitcoin is, so they're willing to give you US dollars and lend you those US dollars for your Bitcoin. On a Bitcoin standard, that won't be the case because on a Bitcoin standard, US dollars won't exist anymore. So you won't be able to borrow against your Bitcoin on a Bitcoin standard. What you'll do is you'll spend your Bitcoin. You'll give away your Bitcoin to a merchant. If a merchant wants to sell you, let's say, a book, or if they want to sell you a car, a house, whatever you want to pay for, you would give away your Bitcoin. You wouldn't take a loan against your Bitcoin because US dollars won't exist. People won't want US dollars anymore. So just to close this off, eventually nobody will want dollars because why would people want pieces of paper that can be created out of thin air for something that they put time, energy, and effort into creating? You won't be able to borrow against your Bitcoin anymore because it doesn't make any sense. Bitcoin is money. Today, we've been brainwashed to believe that US dollars are money. We've been brainwashed to believe that pieces of paper, pieces of cotton that take 10 cents to create, to produce more of, are worth $100. It takes a pretty long time to convince somebody that they should give away their finite time in exchange for pieces of paper that can be created out of nothing. Like it blows my mind that I even fell for it. At one point, I thought, oh, I just want to accumulate as many dollars. I want to save as many dollars as I can. But now, when I look back at myself in that time, I laugh at myself. I don't want more dollars. Bitcoin is the exit. Bitcoin is a way to get out of this financial system that's completely corrupt and allows the wealthy to get wealthier and to delay gratification and get instant gratification at the same time. This system is not designed for poor people. This system is designed to extract wealth from poor people because the poor don't have houses to borrow against. So what they have to do is they have to work. They have to spend their time, energy, and effort earning these dollars while the rich can get them created out of nothing. So the poor have to work for the rich and then they get to spend their money while the rich get to go to the bank, use their house as collateral, and the bank will print them more money. This system is designed for the rich to get richer. But over time, people are going to figure out what Bitcoin is. Everybody's going to want Bitcoin. Nobody's going to want to give away Bitcoin for pieces of paper. At that point, one Bitcoin will be worth unlimited US dollars, infinity US dollars. There will be no ceiling for Bitcoin. There is no ceiling for Bitcoin. 10 years ago, you would have probably been seen as a crackhead if you said that in 2024, one Bitcoin will be worth $100,000. I'm telling you right now, Bitcoin will eventually be worth 10 million, 100 million, $1 billion. The price will keep rising. There is no ceiling. Because, like I said, dollars can be created out of thin air. The people who want Bitcoin will be able to borrow money against their houses and buy that Bitcoin from you. Eventually, you're going to have to figure it out. You're going to have to figure out that you don't want to give away your Bitcoin for dollars. There's going to be a melt up in price. The wealthy are going to push Bitcoin's price up to get you to sell what you have, to get you to give away your asset. They're not going to give you their asset in exchange for your asset. They're going to try to give you pieces of paper. They're going to try to give you US dollars that have been printed out of thin air in exchange for your Bitcoin, in exchange for the best collateral in the legacy financial system, in the US dollar financial system. They're going to melt the price up. They're going to make the price go up so high that you're going to believe that this is the peak. But then it's going to keep going higher. And then it's going to go higher until every single person who's willing to give away their Bitcoin for dollars has sold.